when we say our MCS and we add more to our story, or we change something earlier, if we retell the MCS, we can hear if it's going to work or not, and we hear how to work it into the story so that it doesn't become a problem to fix later. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Pamela Raleigh, and I'm one of the editors here at Bardsy. And make sure we're all here to to learn the workshop on the MCS. If you see this slide, there's a really fancy title. It can be kind of intimidating. It's so not. You know how they tell us when we title our books to give it a title that relates to the content of the novel to help our readers? That's kind of the way this title is, because our MCS is designed to help you ensure that your novel is cohering, that all the elements that create a story are coming together in the best possible way. It also helps you maintain progress. Whether you hit that muggy middle, or you find a plot hole or a backstory that's not fitting, the MCS is one of the tools we have to help you get out of that. So the title is helping you know what we're going to learn about today. Clever. This is a storytelling tool. We strongly encourage, if not demand, that the MCS is a recitation. It's something you say, not something you write. We're going to talk about why, the benefits of it. We're going to show you how to create one, and then give you that opportunity to practice. So that's the basis for today. So let me tell you a little bit about Bardsy and how the MCS fits into it, so you know where we're coming from, to kind of cement you into the Bardsy. We are a writing community, and we are here to help writers write their version of their story. So we're not a company that's here to tell you what you should do. We're here to help guide you the way you want it. We want you to write your vision. To do that, we have a lot of tools like the MCS. We have something else called the value triangle, and they help you apply that coherence. The coherence refers to how well those story elements coalesce together. Your world, your characters, your plot, your conflict, and your theme, how well they come together to produce the story that's going to suck your readers in and make them want more. And how do we do that? We assess your story over and over. At Bardsy, we have directed writing groups, for example, critique groups. And when our groups meet, we are looking for any issues in that chapter, for example, that you might need to work on to get towards that final cohered and compelling product. And you do it over and over. It's a loop. How do you know you've achieved the right polished version? Well, we say it's look at our PI. If any of you have submitted entries to any of our contests, you get feedback with a 23 category rubric, where we are helping to determine where the strengths and the weakness of that piece is. And that's what Bardsy helps you do. You might say, okay, I'm a little weak on this conflict. I didn't set it up properly, or I'm not connecting it through the chapters. I got to work on that. You go back to step one, you rewrite it, you check for the coherence, you assess it, maybe with your beta readers in your reading group, and you determine, I got to keep doing this until I get it right. Then you know you have that product. So that's what we do here. Speaking of product, that's what we're all about. Some writing groups are all about a specific template, or they're trying to help you with the craft or the marketing, but we really focus on that product. We're looking for that compelling book. So you know you have a compelling book if you have lots of praise, you get those rave reviews, Goodreads is all over it, you're feeling like, yay, I got a great story. And that leads to spreading the word. We want our writers, our authors to say, it's the trickle-down effect, that we want to go past your friends and family, right? You want to spread, if Dorothy is living in Indiana, she'd love nothing more than to know someone in Australia picked up her book. That would be ideal because it will lead to sales. Who doesn't want sales, right? We all hope that when we write our books, even though we write for different reasons, when you produce that compelling product out, there's nothing more validating than seeing that someone has split with their hard-earned money just to read my story. What a phenomenal feeling. So that's what we're focused on. That's how what Bardsy is all about. All right, so one tool we have is the MCS. What is the MCS? Literally a minimum complete story. Every word in that title is critical. For me, this is a tool that has helped me. I had a book come out this past August, and creating my MCS for that book and for all the books that you are writing now is key. It's minimum, it's the smallest amount you could do of a complete, and this is key, your whole story from beginning to end, and that word story. That means we want to see those elements we mentioned earlier, the world, the character, the plot, the conflict, and the theme. It's that whole story distilled to its barest essentials. Tiny. When you say your MCS aloud, once you have it polished and perfected, it should take you about 90 seconds. So imagine trying to tell your whole story in 90 seconds. You might think that feels overwhelming. It is hard. It's not easy. But if you think back on some of your favorite stories, maybe a fairy tale, you could probably do it. You could probably capture the key elements of that story, put it all together, and you can tell someone what it's about. So the first time you do your MCS, you're not going to get a 90-second review. I highly doubt it. I am still working on mine. I'm stammering. I get frustrated. Sometimes I said, wait, I forgot to add something. It takes a while because it's showing you where you've got some weaknesses, where you've got some poor connections. So the MCS is really a tool to help guide your writing, guide your revisions, and make sure that you're not straying too far from the story that you want to tell. So why, I mentioned earlier, you have to say your MCS. Why writing versus storytelling? When you write, it's a different process. You're thinking through it. You're making conscious decisions, what you put on the paper. You might be even seeing that one scene in isolation. But when you're in your head, you're requiring active memory to take over. You're thinking about your whole story in its large picture. And that's something that we sometimes forget when we're writing chapter 14. We forget how it goes with the whole story. The other reason we encourage storytelling is writing began in the 1600s. But storytelling, the oral tradition, as Dorothea knows reading the book, has been around since millennia. I mean, how did we start with stories? They were fables, parables, morals, all designed to teach maybe a community the lessons of the community. Kings depended on stories to tell the villagers how they were supposed to act in society before they had language. Before they had the written word to do that. So when you tell your MCS, you are harnessing your story instinct. Think about the times you might have sat around the campfire, if any of us went to camp as kids, or even as adults on October 31st, and we like to tell scary stories to each other. That's the idea. We're capturing our audience. So when you have a polished MCS, you have a captured audience who can't help but go, oh my gosh, I can't wait to read this book. It sounds phenomenal. That's what we're shooting for. All right, so the MCS, before we get into the creation of it, this is why you want the MCS. It helps you set goalposts for coherence. You will be able to figure out, okay, if my theme is not planted in that first chapter, I'm not seeing it develop. So it helps you give you guidelines on what elements you want to pull together. Another benefit is that it helps you assess your narrative synergy. How well can you tell your story? When you stammer, or you stumble, or you falter, or you're going on because you can't figure out how this one thread connects to this other thread, the synergy is off. So the more you tell your MCS, the more you're fixing problems within the writing. So it all connects. The storytelling is key to you hearing if your story is making sense and if there's any holes that need to be fixed. A third benefit, if you tell yourself out loud, preferably your MCS before you even sit down to write. I don't mean sit down to write before you start writing, but every time you sit down for your writing session, you're placing your mind in your entire story. So if I'm sitting down and I want to revise chapter 3, even though I'm already up to 22, but I changed something and I got to go back and do chapter 3, I still have the whole story in my mind. I think it helps you from straying too far down that path of no return. You know how you write 5,000 words and then you go, oh, none of this relates to anything, and I have to delete it. So saying your MCS helps keep your mind focused in the right place. The other thing I love about the MCS is I think for all of us, when you're writing, you might have an idea in mind of where you're going to go with a story. And then if you're a pantser or some degree of pantsing, you may take off in a different direction. When you tell your MCS, you'll notice if that direction worked or not. For example, maybe you decide, oh, I'm going to change the occupation of my protagonist. I'm going to go with something else. When you tell your MCS, you're going to realize if that occupation was best suited for the conflict that I want them to have or for the themes I'm trying to pull out. Maybe you say, nailed it, this is it. But instead of writing 5 chapters and realizing, no, this isn't it, when you say your MCS, you're going to be able to figure out if that's the best choice you made. And finally, when you have a polished MCS, if you're seeking traditional or hybrid publishing, where you're looking for an agent or a publisher, an editor, it gives you the grounds for querying. It helps you know, what am I putting in that query letter? What are the elements that are going to capture their interest? And even beyond, whether you have a published book or you're self-publishing, you've got to market, and you've got to promote it, double yuck. But for me, I'm going to give you a quick example. The book that I just wrote focuses on themes of memory loss and how to stay connected with your loved ones who have memory loss. Well, doing my MCS, I kept hearing that theme through the characters, through the conflict. So when it came time to try and promote it, I took that thread, and that became a tool for me to reach an audience that I might not have known how to reach had I not heard that over and over. So that's where the MCS can be helpful in that way. Shakespeare might be pretty impressed that we got his entire story in a few sentences here, but you notice this is a complete story. It's not a blurb, a backstory blurb where you're trying to capture your reader's interest. It's not an elevator pitch where you're trying to hook them into reading it. This is the whole story, minus the details, and that's what you're going for. Let's figure out how we have to create it. So to create it, you start with your world and your main characters. So in the example we just saw, we started with Renaissance Italy, Romeo and Juliet. Then you move to the inciting incident. 2 lovers meet each other and fall instantly in love. You added the peak, tragedy strikes, and then you hit the end, which is the families decide they're going to put aside some differences and learn to get along. All of that was in there. And guess what came out with all that? After she told it, we heard themes, because I picked up that theme right from the beginning, and we heard the conflict, that the families had to fight each other. And of course, Romeo and Juliet had that external conflict. How are they going to be together? So the MCS, you start with your world. Think about your world and your main characters. What's the inciting incident that launches that conflict? Where does it peak? How does it end? That's a key right there to the end. So often when someone asks us what's our story about, we want to give them a blurb without giving them the end. But the MCS is designed for you to help you create the best story possible. And it also serves as your mini oral synopsis for people to know what your story is going to be about. So the MCS has 4 stages, so to speak, when you kind of, how do I know I'm ready sort of thing. The most important key of the MCS, it has to be complete. And again, it's that the ending has to be there. You're not leaving them hanging and not knowing how it ends, because that doesn't help you drive your writing. You always want to know, how do I want this story to end? That's what helps you as you maybe fix something or you're writing something. It guides you. The second thing, after we get a complete 5-minute recitation, we want to shrink it. Shrink, shrink, shrink until it's as tiny as that slide on Romeo and Juliet could be. So now we have it complete. Now we have it concise. The third thing is we want it stable. Let's say you go on vacation, you put your story down, you go on your cruise ship, you come back, you get ready to go, and you can say your MCS the same way as you did before. Now, that doesn't mean you're tied to it. Your MCS is going to change as you make edits or as you change your story. But the idea is, if you have a stable MCS in mind and you can recite it, then you know that your story is in the right stages of cohering. It's coming together properly. And then finally, when you have it really polished, you put that narrative voice in there, you've got that dramatic flair. Your listener, if you know you've got a good MCS, your listener is asking questions like, tell me more about this conflict. What happens when this happens? Not questions of confusion, like, huh? But questions that inspire them to read more about your story and hopefully buy the book. That's what we're going for. So those are the stages of the MCS. From, we want to make it complete, and that's what we're going for today. Let's make a complete MCS today. And then you practice to make it more concise. You say it over and over to feel like it's got some stability, and then you add your flair to make it that theatrical.
Bardsy delivers the tools, guidance, and support you need to produce compelling novels. Our well-researched and thoroughly tested approach includes our minimum complete story, a 90-second exercise that keeps your writing on track while fueling creativity, Bardsy Publishability Index, a 23-dimension checklist that offers attainable goals and provides actionable feedback, and our brand new comprehensive character developer that helps you construct unforgettable characters. Come see for yourself at Bardsy.com today. Try a workshop or enter our first chapter contest. Then, when you're ready, Elite Membership delivers writing groups, personal coaching, and a curated community. With Bardsy, your work will captivate everyone, from agents to publishers, and, most importantly, your readers.
When we say our MCS and we add more to our story, or we change something earlier, if we retell the MCS, we can hear if it's going to work or not. And we hear how to work it into the story so that it doesn't become a problem to fix later. And like Adam said, it's not easy peasy. I'm telling you, I still struggle. When I'm in my writing group and Celeste asks me to tell my MCS, I just go cringe. Because I know I'm going to sound like then, because it's a work in progress.
And the thing I want to underline, I can't do this enough. When you're in a writing group, when you're a writer, everyone goes through this problem, right? Everyone has this difficulty. Everyone. Our most experienced members, people who have 3 or 4 novels under their belt, when they're working on a new novel, it's hard. because their brain is literally doing that, working on a new story. You ask them about their first novel, comes out, because it's done. But this is a tool that isn't about being done. It's about helping you make progress. And because everyone's been there in our writing groups, it's a very supportive environment. Here we're all strangers, I mean, mostly. So what that means is it's hard. So you don't have to do this today. That's point one, but try to do it. But it's not just doing it once. It's doing it the first time, doing it the second time, the third time, and so on, because it's going to get better each and every time. And then a couple of weeks from now, it's going to be even better. And all that time you put in is simultaneously going to make your story better, and it's going to help your novel. This is going to be spontaneous and a lot tougher than you would imagine. So, Pam?
Yeah.
Could you do two, to back up what we just talked about, can you do 2 MCSs for us? One for Memory Bracelet and then one for your current project. Uh-oh, that was me.
Oh boy. Okay.
Now I notice a look of abject fear and shock. Why don't we do Memory Bracelet first? So Memory Bracelet is out now. It's selling very well. It is. And Pam just gave 2 talks and has many talks scheduled. Let me ask this. How long did it take you to write Memory Bracelet?
At least a year to 2. And that means it went through my directed writing group. It went through beta readers, you know, but yes, it's time consuming. Even for me to do my MCS about it right now is probably, you know, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm thinking, okay, I have to think back on it. I am so programmed in the other one. So Tessa Wild, a 20-year-old college sophomore, has a very contentious relationship with her grandmother, Esther. To make it worse, Esther is in the middle to late stages of Alzheimer's. When Tessa is asked to do a well check on her grandmother, Esther, grandmother's unreliable memory begins to drop bits and pieces of a big family secret that upends Tessa's world. So Tessa decides that she's going to access her grandmother's beloved charm bracelet that her grandmother clutches to her every day, and try to explore this secret through the charms on the bracelet. She intends to ask Esther about the stories that are contained in the charms and get to the root of this big family secret that has Tessa questioning who she is and who her real mother is. But Esther can't control what comes out of her mind, and Tessa can't control what stories Esther shares. So as Tessa hears stories and as Esther shares stories with the reader, Tessa begins to think that learning the secret isn't as big a mission as it is to learn more about her grandmother. And by the end, she has learned that her grandmother is a very different person than the woman she thought she was. And she begins to understand her, even though Esther doesn't have the means to show her appreciation for that understanding. The end, maybe. I'm waiting for my fireworks.
Why can't I do? There we go.
There we go.
Yay.
Yeah.
So this is a completed novel. Now the benefit is when Pam goes on an interview or talk show, she's going to be able to know her story that she's trying to tell. It's going to be accessible to her. This is the product. This is the outcome of all this thought. It wasn't there when she started this a year ago. Let's give an example of a work in progress, please.
You want me to try the one I'm doing now? Okay.
What's the title, Pam?
I don't know. Right now it's called Lenora in Limbo.
Perfect. Doesn't even know the title.
I don't even know.
So we're ready to go.
All right, here we go. 95-year-old Lenora Lynch has spent her lifetime building a successful tea business in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Her niece, Robin, is running the business now, and Lenora is asked to participate in an interview discussing the history and the foundation of Lindsay's, her company. However, Lenora has been hiding a big secret for 70 plus years. In 1952, she accidentally created a lethal tea blend which killed her husband and her brother-in-law, and no one ever found out. Because her husband Byron and brother-in-law Mo were popular moonshiners at the time, everyone thought they died from improperly distilled moonshine, and she let that secret live forever. Now her memory is failing, and she is confusing the past and the present, and she's desperately trying to hold on to that secret. She fears that her family would abandon her, and Lindsay's might be ruined if the truth comes out. During the interview, the truth comes out. As a result, the company that she has strived so hard to build maybe goes bankrupt. I don't know yet. The company she tries so hard to build collapses, and her family is angry with her. And until she is honest with herself about what she did and shares the detail and opens up the past to her family, let me change that. When she is honest with herself and opens up the details and shares the past with her family, she becomes at peace with her past. Her family forgives her, and she can put that secret to rest.
Let's give Pam a big round of applause.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I don't know how
Pamela?
half of that stuff is going to happen.
Cece,
Thank you, Cece. Cece gave me a little
a little
thingy.
thumbs up. All right. So think you saw two presentations. One is a completed novel. One is a work in progress. And it's pretty far along too. I mean, it's not finished by any means, but it's pretty far along. So can someone summarize the difference between those two presentations in terms of how Pam approached it? And I want you to key in on her facial expressions and her presentation. A, confidence, expressed by what? The speed at which she said it. It was much, much slower and much more deliberate, the second version. So the details were much more filled in, right? The story was more complete in that sense. Your brain is searching, your eye automatically looks up and generally to the right. That shows that your brain is actively thinking about it. Now, the next time she does this, what? It's going to be that much closer to the front of her mind. Psychological term is accessible, and she's not going to have to search as much. It'll come faster. But this takes practice.
It's such a different process than, for example, people say, "Can I write it out and memorize it?" That's not helping it. When I was doing the second one, I was trying to think of, because it's not done, where I appreciate, like Reba noticed, the details are missing because I don't know exactly what I'm doing with that. I know how I want it to end, but I don't really know how I'm going to get there. So I'm trying to think it through. But what it does for me is it helps ground what I know is true. Like on that worksheet that I'm sure I'm going to wait and let Adam talk about in a minute, but I'm 100% certain of my character, but I'm not really certain about how the conflict is going to present itself. So that's where I'm searching. But when I say it over and over, I think it helps to figure out where I might want to go.
Yes, exactly. And that's the exploration part. There was a point, you guys see it, where she said, I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Perfectly fine. You shouldn't know what's going to happen. Your story at this point should not be perfect. Thank you so much, Pam. Very hard to do. Very brave.
Need more deodorant now.
Wipe off all the flop sweat. All right. Time for cleanup. At least no blood, right?
True. That's true.
I would hate to see you guys start having blood coming out of your nose and your head explode. That would be bad. All right. Joke. So the idea is we're going to compartmentalize this. We're going to answer a very quick question. Who's the main character? What's the conflict? What's the world like? And by doing this, you're going to warm up your brain. And we're allowing you to write this because it's okay. This is a crutch. And I don't mean it as a crutch in a bad way. I mean it's a way to get yourself started. So think of them as training wheels for your MCS bicycle. And then you're going to take these more established facts and turn it into a story. So this is sort of a fact sheet. And then when we go back here, we're starting to turn it into a story by telling it aloud. And a lot of the gap between this sort of training wheels and this, the story, is going to be automatic. Right? That's the wonderful thing about our brains and engaging the storytelling instinct is you can take, once you've established the world, the characters, the theme, the conflict, and the 3 plot points, then the leap to storytelling is much easier. So we're offloading, we're setting aside some of the facts, we're having them in front of us, and then allowing your brain to sort of ride the bicycle with these training wheels by telling a story. You iterate. Does everyone know what iterate means? We always have this argument. Iterate means a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Version 1, version 2, version 3. You're always getting that little incremental improvement. That's the Bardsy method loop. Make it a little bit better each time. The opposite of iteration is to try to be perfect, perfection. And it's not possible. There's one person in this universe who can write a perfect story without going through all these stages. I'm sure you guys know who he is if you think about it. Give you a hint. He wrote 11/22/63, Christine. There's certain people in this universe who can sort of conceptualize a story in their head completely, perfectly, concisely, dramatically, and then write it. And he's one of them. I don't know if he could do this early on in his career, but he can certainly do it now. And that is the mark of a great novelist. Now, what's happening is, well, his endings sometimes suck, so he's not perfect. But what's happening is he learned how to do this at some point in his life. Now, when we talk to people, the people who tend to do their MCSs more easily and more quickly, they tend to be people who had their parent read aloud to them or tell them stories in their childhood. Now, if you had that, great, because you have sort of a head start. If you didn't have that, you're just going to have to practice a bit harder and practice a bit more. But the thing is, everybody has this storytelling instinct. Anytime you say that was a great novel, that was a great story, you're demonstrating your ability to separate great from not so great. So I know, Pam and I know that you have it. You're going to have big swings at first as you develop and refine your story and add pieces and resequence them. Then the swings are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as you focus in on what's important. And it's going to stabilize. Then you're going to start telling it the same way each time. Then you're going to be able to work on the drama. trying to punch the parts that are the most important. Now, there's one caveat to that, which is you can change. Pam gave a good example, and I know Cece put this into practice. What if my main character switches jobs? Instead of being a dream steal thief, they're going to be an archaeologist. And Pam changed jobs too. Well, you insert that in, and then you see how the rest of the story adapts around that. And then you're back to that metronome, gradually zooming in on the new story that's going to accommodate that change. A better story, right? Because your brain has suggested that change. So it's okay to change, right? You can look at the stabilized version as a foundation for exploring new changes. And then you know your novel is done in some sense when you have a stabilized, perfect, final dramatic version that you're happy with. You can't make any more changes. All right, great job, guys. Thank you so much for coming today. And
Bye, everyone.
Bardsy delivers the tools, guidance, and support you need to produce compelling novels. Our well-researched and thoroughly tested approach includes our minimum complete story, a 90-second exercise that keeps your writing on track while fueling creativity, Bardsy Publishability Index, a 23-dimension checklist that offers attainable goals and provides actionable feedback, and our brand new comprehensive character developer that helps you construct unforgettable characters. Come see for yourself at Bardsy.com today. Try our workshop or enter our first chapter contest. Then, when you're ready, Elite Membership delivers writing groups, personal coaching, and a curated community. With Bardsy, your work will captivate everyone, from agents to publishers, and, most importantly, your readers.